So it's so weird that these types of awarenesses that I have end up on some pretty significant holidays that's shared by millions and millions of people, like Good Friday, and then we have Easter, and then we have Passover, and then every other holiday that is going on right now. We're all celebrating on some level. And so, of course, I have to do a Facebook Live about the last day of just straight thinking about everything, awareness of everything. And it's almost, it becomes a duty. It's not even because I'm trying to convert anyone, because really I have no power over anyone else. I have no power over anyone else. This is just an awareness for me, because when I think of something and I'm like, holy shit, I can't keep it to myself. It's incumbent upon me as a human to share it with other humans. What you do with it, I don't care what you do with my information. But it's incumbent upon me to give humans an awareness and a choice in whatever matters. And it's not up to me what choices you make. But I've learned a lot of lessons the last couple years, a lot of lessons. And some are really hard lessons. Some lessons I will never, ever I will not experience again unless I get agreement with my government that the world's going to be different, that we're not going to allow so much death and reproduction to the point where you purposely have to suffer in order to live, like suffer exponentially. What do you mean by that? Yesterday, a friend of ours came over just to hang out for a minute, and I was talking about orbs and spirits and all this stuff, and he was just like, oh, that's probably sugar. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, we're not ever getting an animal again. I'm not going through that again. And Jason was talking about him and I going to the Humane Society, dropping stuff off, and how Jason saw a few animals that he would pick out if he could to take home, and I won't do that again. And so our friend was saying, well, you'll get another animal someday. I'm like, no, I won't. I will not. I cannot fathom being close to something that will eventually die. He's like, well, animals are living longer nowadays, 20 years, 10 years. That's even fucking worse. Getting close to an animal for a day, getting close to an animal for 20 years, and then suffer watching them pass away, watching them go through that enslavement of having to beg to go outside, having to be begged to eat, having to beg to do anything. That if that human is fucked up in the head, the animal is suffering because of that human. And you could say, oh, Julian, let me tell you, those of you who understand where I was coming from, you knew I wasn't being a monster. Those of you who knew where I was coming from, those of you who didn't understand where I was coming from because you have your own issues with abuse of animals and yourself and people hurting you, you looked at me as a monster because you were reflecting back what you saw in yourself. But the people out there that understood where I was coming from, and they didn't look at me as a monster. They knew I was suffering because I didn't want my animal to fucking die. So I learned a lesson. I'm not taking anything that I can't afford to lose, because I'm telling you, that pain was so fucking exponential that I wouldn't wish that upon my worst enemy. When you get close to something like that, okay, like a beautiful animal, like my dog Sugar, like any other animal out there that's out there, and you're watching them deteriorate. Forget the J world for a minute. Just watching them, just look at your friends and family that are dealing with animals that are deteriorating. You know how much that stabs you in the heart? There's no fucking way I would ever repeat that unless I got an agreement with my government that we're not going to allow animals to die. We're not going to have a medical system, a holistic system, alchemy, veterinarians. We're going to have alchemy and biotech to develop the strongest prototypes in animals and in humans. And then the person who has the animal has so much space and the ability for the animal to go in and out by themselves without somebody having to wake up to let them outside. I'm telling you, I've learned my lessons, okay? And so when you finally have an awareness, an awakening of how shit actually works, oh, it is horrible. Hold on, I heard my husband. Hold on a second. Did you say something, honey? I'm upstairs. here doing my Facebook Live. My husband was like up all night, and then he's falling asleep on the couch. I was watching part of The Crown this morning, and then because I woke up early, and then now I'm doing this. But there's like 7 sections I want to go over here because I have to get it out of my system. Because the reason why I do Facebook Lives is not really for all of you, and it is and it isn't. It's really for me, because I'll tell you, when you know stuff and you hold it inside and you can't express it, and there's no one around you that understands where you're coming from, you have to let it out. And it has to be channeled in a productive manner, in a constructive manner. And so I've had to learn how to express myself without destroying somebody else, without bullying somebody else, without confronting somebody else, and still honor differences, diversity, and people's choices without trying to convert them, make them wrong. And that's difficult to do because you're going to be talking about everybody around you. People are going to reflect. They're going to know that that's what you're referring to, because there's so many clones out there in society that all represent and do the same thing. Okay? And so when I look at humanity, I look at myself, what I promoted, what I supported, and I'm ashamed. I'm so ashamed. And that's the thing about waking up, literally. Not like woke, like you're a zombie. Like John was saying, that being woke is like the first part of waking up from a sleep. You're still groggy, but you're not fully awake, really. When you're actually awake, you'll be ashamed of your politics. You'll be ashamed of your religion, all fucking religions. I don't care what they are. And you'll be ashamed of the sciences that you supported. Okay? And when you're fully awake, you will almost have to walk away from society and almost cut down your friends list, because all of that shit, that suffering, that abuse, all of that stuff, the human exploitation, experimentation will be right in your face, in your newsfeed on a daily fucking basis. When you actually are awake, you won't want to have that in your face 24/7. And then you won't want to re-traumatize everyone to such an extent. I mean, you'll point out certain things without actually traumatizing people. Okay? And that's hard because there is an addiction to fear porn. There's an addiction to talking about such abusive things. And people want to say, oh, we should collaborate. Oh, there's no collaboration. Because I'm telling you, you'd have to walk away from your politics, your religion, and your science dogmas. And you'd have to actually uncover all the secrets that you have on some level. So that way people can be like, oh, shit. And release the demons and like literally walk a totally different path. And you'll learn how to expose things without traumatizing the people around you so much, to such an extent. And you'll have to point out the science behind it. I mean, that's the thing. Let me tell you, it's hard to do what I'm doing if you don't have the background of where I've come from, or haven't put in the time to understand yourself. Okay? So I don't do any collaborations. I don't do any podcasts with people. No, because let me tell you, it's an individual journey, and it's not about superficially exposing the secrets of our society. Because even on Netflix, when they're showing you the R. Kelly stuff, the Jimmy Savile stuff, the Epstein stuff, they don't go into straight details. They'll say, yeah, there's been exploitation. Yeah, there's stuff. You heard some of the stories. But if you actually heard all of the stories, every single one of them, and who was all involved and everything, your whole world would be blown away. There's a reason why Netflix only covers certain things, because the trauma behind what actually humans are capable of is insane. And I'll tell you, the last 12 years, I was studying the conspiracy world. I listened to so many YouTube videos, read so many websites of people's perspective and people's that were in it, that were dealing with this stuff, like, you know, the 1950s, MK Ultra, all that stuff. And then people who know, you can't tell if it was real that they actually went through that, or if it was like someone contrived a story. You can't tell anymore. And it is so horrific that you can't even believe it's real. So then your blinders go on. You don't want to know anymore because it's so bad. Okay? And so this is the thing, why we're in a great reset, and why it is that it's you can't convert other people. You have to literally change yourself and save yourself. And so the system does not want you to change, which is why all the cures, surgeries, herbs to take you out easier and also keep you anesthetized. Because if you actually, again, are awake, literally become awake, the pain of what humanity actually is right now would be so great you wouldn't survive that process. And so when you think about it, the pain in your body is an exemplification of the actual pain and suffering out there in the world. And when you have that much pain, not only have you contributed to it, to the world of the pain, as well as yourself, but you won't be able to survive it because it's that painful. You wouldn't be able to handle the energy conversion. And so in a lot of ways, the medical system and the holistic system can be a blessing to those that have done so much harm to themselves and harm to humanity that they can only stay in the medical holistic system because they wouldn't be able to handle the actual reality of the world they actually live in and what they supported, what they contribute to, and what they've done to their children, their parents, their friends, their family, animals, other humans. I mean, it's pretty mind-boggling. So I understand in a lot of ways why the medical system and the holistic system and why people under the influence have to stay under the influence, because if they actually faced all the demons, literally, they would die from them right off the bat. So even though changing will save your life because the environment is more aggressive, the system has taught your friends and family and associates that change is the demon, even though they promote climate change, but will not promote the change that will save your life. And sometimes people cannot change because it would not save their life, it would destroy them. And so the system made you so addicted to public validation that change will never happen for you. Okay, so you see that all over Facebook, the public validation. Oh God, look at my kids. Oh, look at my animals, which I understand on some level. Oh gosh, look at what I did. Look what I'm doing. Okay, great. Fucking here's an applause for you. Does that really help you? Or is it just like, oh, that's not enough. You need more, right? It's never enough. So just look around you and look at your resistance to change in your own relationship to food, pain, mucus, symptoms, all by design. It's fucking brilliant. Okay, so long story short, your friends, family addictions to public validation and your kids in occupation, politics, religion, science, dogmas have been weaponized against your survivability. You see again all over your Facebook, people are consuming and living off of that validation, and you understand that's their only survival. Their kids are their only thing because that's what gives them life and meaning. Their animals, their groups of friends, their associations, or occupation. Oh, I understand. Now that I know this, I can relax because all of you hold your own cards for the future. No one is doing anything to you. You're doing it to yourself. And so I've done my part for humanity. Will I get endless invitations to parties and get-togethers? Abso-fucking-lutely not. And I don't expect it. Because what I'm uncovering is so painful that people don't want me as a reminder as they are partying and doing all their stuff that is self-destructive. And I get it. I'm sure I will go to some things that people do and I can still handle the diversity. I'm not judging. You do what you got to do to survive. And if that means that you have to be under the influence 24/7 and it's legal and you can handle it, it's not for me to fucking judge or say it's bad or wrong. Right? I understand now. I know I come off judgmental, but I get it. The pain of our society right now is so fucking great. People cannot handle the actual reality. Okay? And so now it's your turn. Save the world by living or save the world by dying. Again, you choose. Again, I don't care what you do, but you need to have a choice. And so the word woke is now being used to acknowledge unacknowledged lifestyles. Now I'm reading some of the stuff just and giving my take on what I wrote and maybe give you an explanation further. The word woke is now being used to acknowledge or unacknowledged lifestyles. Woke used to mean thinking outside the current box until everyone started thinking outside the box and that became mainstream. That's the conspiracy world. That was the contrived, well, let's give people a little bit of information, put a spin on it, make you sound like you're crazy and play that game of for and against, which you see all over the place in politics and all that stuff. And so then you think, oh, because I adopted this woke lifestyle, that I understand HARP, CERN, and Wi-Fi and particle accelerator, that now I'm so much more in the knowing than somebody else. And then people stop at that point. They don't go further. They just stop right there. Or chemtrails, or GMO, whatever their perception of genetically modified, or their perception of vaccines, or their perception of therapies. People stay stuck in those contrived arguments. So that way you feel like you're woke and awake and in the know. And someone else who is not looking at that or even acknowledging that, then they're asleep. And that's what you see all over Facebook. And so now woke means that you're acknowledging someone that was not acknowledged properly and has to be done through advertising, i.e. the Budweiser cans. So you see how everything is evolving and changing. Being woke doesn't mean what you think it means anymore. Being woke means you're still fucking asleep. It means you still don't get it. You still don't get what the fuck is going on. And then John was saying, yeah, being woke means you're still groggy. And I said, yeah, you're still a zombie. You're not fully fucking awake. You're still a zombie when you think about it. Diet wokes. I see this all the time. Oh, okay. Audrey, I never heard that, but that's okay. Wow. And so the reason why people get big egos on the internet, you know why? Because they've been shut down by their friends and family that don't want to hear what you have to say. If it goes against their reality, they're like, nope, you can't talk about this, you can't talk about that, you can't talk about that, I don't want to hear this, I don't want to hear that, closing my ears. And so when you now have a venue like Facebook, social media, YouTube, now you can finally just let it all fucking hang out. And let the chips fall where they may when you think about it. Because so people get shut down by their friends, their family, and peers, that you now finally have to be a big man on Facebook because they wouldn't be allowed to hold their views in public. And I think that's great. I don't want to be out there with a microphone protesting. Even though I know it's, there's a right to assembly was the First Amendment. The right to assemble, it's dangerous to assemble in public with views that are going against somebody else's views. You see it out there. People beat each other up. People get shot. People do stupid stuff because they don't like what someone says. You see how evil people can be on the internet, through email, through Facebook, through private message. So you can imagine if someone can be that fucking evil through words, what they could do to you in person if they really don't like you. If they have intolerances, racist, ageist, whatever. They don't like your politics, they don't like your religion, they don't like your science. So if you see how evil people can be through the email and through private message and through Facebook, then you don't want to be out there in the fucking public square protesting against anything. So not only could you get beat up for it, your views out there in the public square, because people don't know how to handle information or words, but you could also put yourself in danger, and it could be a deadly situation. That's why you learn how to articulate. You don't use your freaking, hands. You don't promote violence against someone. You use your fucking words. And if you have to say fuck, 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 then say it. But you use your words and you learn how to intellectually articulate your position without promoting violence. Sometimes it's going to come off aggressive because people have so much inside that's pent up inside, just like an animal that's forced to not be able to release their demons. They have so much pent up inside that when they finally burst because they're taking on so much stress, they don't survive the energy conversion. That's why animals die, and humans too, because they hold everything inside. I mean, look at all the different protest rallies. That ought to give you a clue how dangerous it is to hold your views in public. That's when you know you're dealing with someone who cannot handle intellect because they can't handle somebody's words. It doesn't have to be aggressive, insulting words, though people can be. I'll tell you, people use the past, and they'll say really inflammatory words, which some people will react to them, and then sometimes it's warranted, and people don't get charged for any kind of crimes because someone went in their face and used all these racist names. And the public is a bit more sympathetic when someone who is a minority or didn't start anything is getting accosted by someone who is that intolerant. So you now have to be careful out there in the public square when you're trying to spout your point of view. Oh, free speech. Oh yeah, it does. It has consequences when it comes to targeting a specific person, place, or thing. I understand when people want to change the system as a whole, but when you target a person, place, or thing, a culture, well, not even a culture. Well, yeah, no, not even. You can say a culture as a whole, but it depends on what kind of culture. But you don't want to be going after ethnicity, sexual orientation. But as far as culture, that's gray areas, not super black and white. And as far as politics, religion, and science, those are all up for grabs. But a specific person, their ethnicity, their sexual orientation, yeah. You don't want to be going after a specific person. Because how does evolution ever happen if someone who so conservative and closed up destroys any kind of evolution? That's why we have the internet. That's why they've given us delivery services and a place to spout our frustrations. Here you go. So how do you get new ideas out there that could be aggressive to somebody else relative to their lifestyle and belief systems? Say it on Facebook. Block and delete demons. Okay? You guys gotta learn how to talk because you have a right to your belief systems and your opinions. So as long as it's not hurting someone else. If someone is hurt by your words, are you promoting violence? Are you insulting someone's sexual orientation, their race? Or are you questioning the system as a whole, politics, religion, and science, in a peaceful, intellectual way? And yeah, you could be snarky. People are, because it's a way to express. But learn how to express using your words. Type it out. Oh, and you'll see people's belief systems. You'll see their intolerances. You'll see the racism in people. You'll see the phobias. And it's pretty eye-opening when you see how people deal with things that they don't understand or refuse to understand. It's pretty crazy. It takes years of practice not to be so inflammatory and aggressive, but sometimes you will be. It takes practice to be eloquent and articulate about your beliefs without completely insulting everybody. However, at some point you will, because when you're questioning, having animals and children right now in this world, I mean, you already had it, before we woke up, that's fine. But from this point forward, now that we see what happens when we have predisposed issues and trauma that is unresolved, and you have kids and animals on top of that, okay, and you're like, should this really happen? Maybe we should be guiding reproduction carefully. That's going to insult a lot of people who right now can't wait to have kids and have a bunch of animals. But hey, you're not targeting them. You're targeting the idea of that lifestyle. But it's not a sexual orientation. It's like, should we be enslaving any more animals and people from this point forward? There has to be that point of impact of evolution, and it's going to be aggressive. Doesn't mean you're ashamed of what you have going on now, because remember, what did you know and when did you know it? Now that you know, how will we then construct the future? And you don't have control over your kids. If your kids decide to have a bunch of kids and they have their own mind and spirit, that's fine. You as a parent will do what you got to do. Save yourself. Even if your kids can't save themselves and they're already too far gone, parents, save yourself. But you're not singling any person out. So that's what I learned, how not to confront people, not to get mad because of whatever. I mean, I say things in a global sense. I talk about everybody. There's specific people that I do reference, but not say their names, but I reference that situation because there'll be other people that will do the same thing. But I'm not trying to call that person out. But if people post on my wall and they say something that I'm like, dude, anything you post on my wall, you can't assume that I'm not going to talk about it if it's like questionable, that I'm going to be like, okay, so be careful what you write on my wall, because I might point it out without saying your name, and then people will look at my wall and see, oh, she's talking about this person. Okay? So anything you put out there that you voluntarily put out there is up for grabs for everyone to consume on my wall. I won't go on your wall and say anything, but you go on my wall, you leave that leaves everything open. Okay? And so you're questioning the whole system. The system deserves to be questioned. And Facebook can help you moderate what you say and what others say to you in response. So use Facebook to your advantage. Don't keep resisting Facebook and always going to Facebook jail. Learn what they're trying to do. They're trying to have an open communication without you going to such a discrimination, to such a violence, that you learn how to be a civilized human being, that there's order and there's ceremony, yes, and there's tradition. Like I'm watching The Crown and I'm pretty impressed by them, keeping to traditions and learning how to evolve. And yeah, I know people have issues with, royalty and all that stuff, but there's got to be some prototype to work from. Okay, so the Crown, like England, is a prototype to work from because it's order, it's law, it's civilized society. It's a way to interact. You use your words, not the caveman violence that goes on out there. Okay? So I'm actually pretty impressed by English royalty when you think about it. I'm not like worshiping them, but I understand the organization and the civility around it. And it's fucking impressive. If anything, that's what I emulate in a lot of ways. Not that I want to be, speaking British or anything like that, but I understand where they're coming from. And I can still evolve and develop my own world. Okay? And so, Facebook can help you moderate what you say and what others say to you in response. So understand how to speak to people in a way that still offers an understanding, and where you're responsible for the misunderstanding. And if they don't get it, you're not trying to convert them, but you can still get your point of view across without taking away from the conversation. It's hard, let me tell you. It's a training on how to deal with different people and diversity. Violence should never be the first go-to because you don't like what someone says, does, or what they look like. That's why we have so many bullies in our society, because they were never exposed to anything different. They've been in a homogenized environment their whole life. And then they were taught violence by their friends and family and their parents as a response mechanism. It even happens in higher socioeconomic statuses, such as, Silicon Valley and people even in the rich, Rockefellers, Rothschilds. They have their own violence, their own history. I'm sure even royalty too, because parents beat up their kids for not behaving the way they want. So the whole corporal punishment, the MK Ultra in the family, that was taught for many years. Why? Because they had so many people with predisposed issues that have behavioral problems, and beating somebody up was the only way to get someone to stay in line. But then that has its own ramifications. You've now damaged years and years of future generations. And so violence does not discriminate. That's caveman mentality. And so humans deserve better than what they have, and they have a higher purpose than always going to blow people they don't agree with. That's why we're in a great reset. Because at some point we're going to have to breed violence out of the population, but not make them all love, love, love. That's also very violent, because I'm telling you, you've seen people who are ickily sweet to me and they're all about love, 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 love. And so they're trying to kill me with kindness. See, watch out for people who are all about kindness and love, because they will kill you with it. You let them in your world and they will wrap their love and their kindness along with their hate, and they will smother you like mycoplasma and strangulate you. And that's the intention around love and hate. Because people love each other to death, and then violence is also involved with it. Because you're sucking the life out of the people you love. And there is no respect. Absolutely. When you love someone to death, where's the respect? There is none. Because there is a manipulation through love and kindness. So we can be balanced in our love and respect and procreation and hobbies and families without destroying society in the meantime. And we have a long way to go. And so I thank Facebook and YouTube for this training ground and for the opportunity to use my voice, because YouTube still takes down certain videos in my YouTube account, but they're saying like medical misinformation. And these are old videos that I forgot that I did a few months back. But they're not giving me any strikes, because it was a while ago and I haven't gone over that same ground or did anything that would be violating anything recently. Okay? And so they're getting that I'm actually learning what it is going on, and I'm not coming from a biased point of view, biased, violent, activist point of view, then I'm understanding both sides. I'm understanding there is relevance to every side of the argument out there. And I'm trying my best to look at all sides and not to demonize everything, but understand why it's going on. Because that's why I want to know why shit's going on. Why are we thinking this way? Why is this happening? And so then after all that, then I'm like, oh shit, then last night, I was just on a roll last night. Because it was pretty energetic last night. When there's energy in the environment, my brain is working like fast. And so, trigger alert. These are my own thoughts. If you think I'm talking about you, look behind you. Many people wear the same shoes. We have so many clones in our society, it's insane. If animals absorb our stress, where did I get this from? Because I was looking at a post of a therapy dog that was for policemen, that it's like a German Shepherd, to help policemen who've seen so much stuff, help them through their job. That these animals are used strictly to absorb the stress of the policemen who've seen so many horrific things. And so I'm looking to my husband going like, you know what, Jason? You know what animals are used for? All these therapy animals, whatever, they're used to absorb our stress and take on the stress of us and their lives of being enslaved to that human. And then eventually they pass away. We destroy our demons. Our stress destroys the animals that we hold on to. And I'm like, holy shit. Jason's like, oh my God. He can't, sometimes he can't handle what I say because he still wants an animal, but I'm not taking care of another animal. I don't care. I'll take care of fish. That's about it. Fish is the only thing. And I'm like, yeah, that's what it is. Because, animals, it's a whole energy conversion. So I'll tell you what I was saying. If animals absorb our stress, our demons destroy them over time. There's a chemical reaction when you have an animal. I understand that chemical reaction because animals give off oxytocin, just like kids. Oxytocin. We take on the stress. We're hungry for that energy conversion. And so that's why we have kids around us. And that's why we get certain joy around having kids. And also why we have animals around us, because we have such a deficit in that animal, that exchange. We are actually taking the energy, siphoning energy, vampiring the energy off our animals, off our children. And it's hard not to see it when you're in it. And no matter how much you're awoke, whatever, you're still being influenced by the energy. And so, yeah, but you could be pretty awoke, and still realize that's the energy that's addicting, and still find a way to still try to have semblance of sanity and understand that maybe at this point you're already in it. You got to deal with whatever comes out of it, and then make a point that in the future you do not put yourself in that position again of being influenced by that kind of addiction, of that kind of energy, because it is addicting. And who suffers? Oh, everybody suffers in that kind of dynamic. When I want to see animals, I want to see them out there free. And it's a trip why the system developed pets. It's a trip. And I remember in the MK Ultra world, when I was looking at the conspiracy world, the handlers purposely gave puppies to their handlees, I don't know what you call them, to their victims, I guess. And they used that animal to control them. And sometimes they would destroy that animal, like purposely kill that animal in front of that person to make them listen and make them in line, to get them in line. I've seen it happen where someone would destroy someone's stuffed animal that they love so much to traumatize them, to get them in line. I've seen that happen. When I was a kid, nothing. That's probably why I don't have any attachment to material things. Because first of all, they can come and go. But I don't want to be that devastated by losing a printer. I don't want to be that devastated by losing a stuffed animal. I don't want to be that devastated losing a beautiful, ornate case. I don't want to be devastated losing a house. Then I know they're all replaceable. And so I don't want someone using that as a power to make me get in line. And so when you're that attached to people, places, and things, you now are weakened. You now are at a deficit. Someone will use that against you and find a way to control you. And that's why having sugar was kind of a weakness in me, because people were using sugar as a fucking tool to get me in line. Oh, we're going to call the police on you. We're going to do this to you. We're going to go and take your animal. We're going to do... I'm telling you, that's how the system has taught people to control other people, by finding what they love, their weaknesses, whatever, and capitalize on it. That's the evilness of humans out there. That when you're trying to do something wonderful and do something this, do something that, and someone will come in and be like, oh, I'm going to go take your animal. I'm going to call the police on you. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And it's been trained, ingrained in them because someone did it to them. Someone utilized something they loved and capitalized on putting the fear of it being taken away. I'm telling you, we don't live in the society that you think. We live in a very evil society that you have to be under the influence in order to get through until you are strong enough to deal with the reality of the world that you live in. Okay, so I understand the chemical reaction. We are the negative to their positive, and the chemical reaction is an energy-causing production of hormones until it gets depleted. So the animal starts depleting, because how much can they pre-produce? Not only just being a puppy mill, but also that oxytocin that people are so addicted to. Because for animals in an aggressive environment, even the food supply isn't enough to keep them alive unless they're allowed to release the demons, the stress. And even then, is that going to be enough? People will find out in the J world that they don't need to give their animals J stuff anymore. Now it's just allowing them to release the demons. And if they don't have too much trauma behind them, they can have all the food supply that's appropriate for animals to keep them alive. But if the human is deteriorating, the animal's going to deteriorate too. Because that's just the nature of the beast. When the animal starts exhibiting that they're trying to release the stress and the human doesn't want them to, they will get the operations, they will get the pills, they will have all the things in the veterinary system. The animal will then become more stressed, but then have a pill to take away the feelings of it, but then you see it biophysically until the animal just depletes and dies. And but animals are not allowed to relieve the stress and our stress, because remember, they're taking in our stress. So they hold it inside and it destroys them, which is why animals become so obese or emaciated or have to be drugged or operated on. See, my dog Sugar, my husband told me last night, he said, yeah, they told us that she went through so many different litters of puppies, that she was literally a fucking backyard bred dog, that she was used as to breed puppies. And that's the enslavement of animals. When someone is breeding animals purely for money, they've enslaved that animal. There's people in the J world that did that too. But I was like, holy shit. They were breeding animals and they were selling them. And they were next to me. I'm not saying who it is, but they were next to me. And I'm like, I lost respect for that person as soon as I figured out that's what they were doing. When they were breeding that animal and they were playing that game of if you produce puppies, you can still live in the house. And if you can't produce puppies, you'll stay out there in the shed in the heat of the day or something. It was like you saw, and that was such a natural thing to say. That person was a natural thing to say to me. And I was just like, you know what? There's no way I'm ever going to bring you back in this world again, because that you're so comfortable saying that you enslaved that animal and that you learned how to, the whole positive negative reinforcement to get that animal to do what you want it to do. And that's brutal to me. No. No. That's what I'm saying. You don't realize how evil humans can be until you wake the fuck up. Literally. It makes you want to cry. And so some animals are enslaved to produce puppies, puppy after puppy after puppy, kitten after kitten after kitten, commodities, puppy kitty mills. And the reason why it still happens is because we keep buying animals. I mean, you see it all over Facebook. If we stop buying animals and stop making market for it, maybe it would stop happening. But we have shelters that are full, shelters that are constantly full of animals that have been abused, commodified, and now like, oh yeah, rescue, save this animal. That's why I was just like, I was done with the whole pet thing. And there's a whole market in the suffering of pets, the medical, the veterinary system. This is also what happens to humans as well when they're in captivity. They're breeding kids, breeding animals, breeding everything, collecting everything as if it's just, an accessory, a conversation piece. Which is why animals and humans have the same types of diseases. Which is why animals also have lifespans, because we use up all their energy based upon our needs and stress. Believe me, I wanted to have a doggy door. I wanted to have my dog be able to go in and out as she pleases. She didn't have to depend upon me to let her in, let her out. But my husband's like, well, she's going to die soon, so I'm not going to do that. I'm like, okay, fine. I understood. But that's the thing. That's the only way I'm going to have an animal is when I have so much space and they have the ability to go in and out, and we are in a different environment, and biotech has developed a prototype for a dog that can handle the environment and stay alive without dying. And we have animals with no genetic predisposed issues. But now you get an animal, you don't know what the fuck is in their genetic line, what kind of suffering you're going to have to deal with at some point, if not sooner in this environment. So which is why animals have a lifespan, because we use up all of their energy based upon our needs and stress. And then at some point, they can't perform anymore. They can't produce the hormones to keep them alive because we use them up. They don't really have a chance to release the stress of their lives living with humans. When humans are free, when you freed yourself, human, the animals around you will be free. It's when you're held in captivity, you will hold other things captive along with you, because misery likes company. So when you actually wake up, really wake up, you won't believe what you actually supported for many years. Some people will never wake up because it's too fucking painful to see what you've supported and continue to support. Ownership has its privileges. Oh, I bet it does. When you are a master and they are the servant, slavery never ended. It just turned into therapy. And so Nicole Shands, who happens to be African American, she's like, yep. And I'm like, you know what? I understand now where the black race comes from, what the issue, why BLM is what it is. I fucking get it. I get it now on such a microbial level, on such a spiritual, societal level. Doesn't mean that different races and cultures don't also enslave each other. But this makes you understand now what people are dealing with on such a level that they don't even understand themselves. And they repeat the sins of their father because that's all they know. Slavery, when you've been enslaved, you will enslave other people. When you finally free yourself, you will free everyone around you. But that, again, takes time. It takes work to be a free person. Oh, it takes a lot of work, and it's painful to be free. Because then you see the slavery all around you, and you figure out you were part of that, and you enslaved other people as you were a slave yourself. And so slavery turned into therapy. It turned into the medical holistic system. All right, so here we go. Another trigger alert. This is Good Friday, so go figure. It's ironic, isn't it? Not really. It's meant to be. To save means to use now and later. People don't save. They use for safekeeping. We have developed a society of people who seriously destroy things and hurt things for someone else to go and save them. It is a money-making venture, and you get trapped by the emotions and trauma, and then it weakened you. So when your world's about saving people, animals, and children, you're using and exploiting the situation to keep yourself fed. Social capital, financial capital, and it is an energy feeding frenzy on both ends. Those are like, oh, God, save me. Give me this, give me that. I need this, I need that. And on the other end, oh, I'm going to save you. And so they're both feeding off each other. It's a vampiristic type of thing. That's why politics, religion, and science is all about saving people and injuring people and developing that loop, that dance. It's never ending, and then it cannibalizes itself. That's why humans have a lifespan and animals have a lifespan. You were meant to die because you can't survive being a victim or a predator. You can't survive. And so another commodity to exploit. Because what are you saving these people and animals and children for? Certainly not for the people. The people don't learn and they get into the same situation later, just like Afghanistan. Just like all the countries that have been exploited by so many different tribes and and rogue governments, until they actually can save themselves, they will forever be taken over by somebody else. Forever. And so it's going to have to play out. Afghanistan's going to have to play out. Iran, Iraq, all the different countries out there. We stay out of their freaking business. We let the people figure it out. And so I'm glad to be part of the crown. I'm actually glad, because they're right. They're civilized. They're fucking civilized. They are correct. And I get it. And I don't want to be uncivilized. I don't want to be fucking, I understand what's going on. It's pretty fucking grim what's going on. And so I'm glad to be in America. Even though America's going through its own stuff, we are the last great experiment. We're seeing how horrible humans can be, and we're seeing also the hope for humanity. But if you can't get out of your own way in your politics, religion, and sciences, you'll think everyone's the enemy, and you will go down with the ship. You will. Because you will pass away. Because you're cannibalizing, trying to save people. And so, because when you are saving these people and animals for, because what are you saving these animals and people and children for? Certainly not for the people. The people don't learn, and they get into the same situation later with somebody else, for someone yet to save them again and use them and exploit them. It becomes a never-ending loop of a life cycle. As soon as the savior leaves, somebody else will take them over and exploit them. Just like all the religions out there. Just look at all the different countries we pulled out of trying to save them. Remember Vietnam, Afghanistan, all the different wars out there? Look at all the animal shelters. Look at all the human shelters with children and families. I can't wait for Western society where we don't have to save someone or something in order to enjoy them. They're not used for a therapy or a collectible or something to exotify. I can't wait for humans and animals to live for as long as the system allows the environment to be stable. When we don't need veterinarians or shamans or medicine. When we completely take away the medical holistic system of alchemy. When we take away religion. The only time alchemists are used is to develop strong prototypes made for the environment and for the people. That will be left up to biotechnology, not some herbalist or shaman down the street. That's why I want to live in the West, because we have a chance to evolve. Even though there'll be pockets of people who will be doing the herbs and the extracts and all the detoxes and whatever, enslaving their kids and their animals and all that stuff, there'll be a segment of society that will evolve. And if we do have animals, we have to give them the space. So I'm not saying that having animals is like enslaving. You just better make sure they have the space and the ability to be themselves, and they have the freedom. And you better stay alive, because when you start deteriorating and you can't keep up with your lifestyle, and then you have to give the animal away because you can't take care of it. So you can be really rich, and then you end up dying or contracting a disease, and you can't take care of your animal. And then your kids, who think totally different, then sell the house. And where does the animal go? See, you have to know that you're going to be around for as long as that animal is around, and as long as the environment allows you and the animals. And that's, I don't know, in this society, it's difficult unless you understand what's going on. In the future, my wish is that people will be balanced so humans don't have to save anyone or anything. Because that's why you have politics, religion, and science. To justify abusing things so you can save them later. And this is where you get all the different stories and TV shows and books, people's experiences with trauma. Disney is partly responsible because we have developed children who need to be saved, regardless of gender. Of course, religion and politics and science are part of the huge part of saving people, using people. Look at everybody in the medical holistic system. Oh, I saved this person with this V. Oh, I saved this person with this operation. Okay, whatever. In my opinion, the reason why the medical system and the holistic system exists because of mass human and animal experimentation. It had to be normalized, worshipped, exotified for the acceptance of human and animal experimentation. And so, luckily now the system doesn't need any more trauma for innovation, because we are now in a downward spiral. And it will be the last money grab for all the trauma that's going on. And so right now, let the best prototype win out. 12.9 billion people of the future going down to 500 million. And I posted the definition of save. To keep safe or rescue someone or something from harm or danger. Okay, harm or danger. To save from drowning. Okay. Set free. Yeah, okay, not really. Deliver, liberate. See, that's all perception. That's all perception. Keep and store up something, especially money, for future use. See, when someone is struggling, right? You see a friend or a family or a stranger on the street, you're like, oh, this is how I'm gonna get social capital and feel good, is to save someone, or to store something. You know, you store your friends with all the issues, so that way you can always be helpful to them, and so you feel like a savior, a saint. That's the thing. When you store a bunch of kids in your flock of families, and you store up a bunch of people who are suffering, so you can come out as a savior. That's called saving. It's exploitation. All right, the CIA. The CIA. When you develop wars and develop enemies, and you develop campaigns against a person, place, or thing, this is where people can justify doing the most dehumanizing, horrible things in the name of science, in the name of politics, in the name of religion. You know, when you don't like someone and they're less than human to you, it's easy to do horrible things to people. And so that's right now what's going on when you have people who are against each other's thoughts, beliefs, political ideology, lifestyles, belief systems. You've dehumanized them to such a point that you'll say anything and do anything to them if given the opportunity, and treat them like shit. And sometimes I have to laugh at some of the stuff, because what can you do? It's funny, but I mean, is it really funny? But it's funny. I mean, I know I'm guilty of it, because what the fuck do you do? It's so crazy out there that sometimes laughter is the only go-to, or you'll cry and cry because you feel so sorry for so many people who are in the crosshairs of other people because of lifestyle, belief system, and all that stuff. So you don't know half the shit the CIA does. I'm not saying they're right or wrong. A lot of human experimentation. Many wars had to be justified, because in order to do human experimentation, you had to justify by making the person the enemy. And so you watch that video about CIA. Yeah, they've done some crazy ass shit in Vietnam, other places, torture stuff. But they did that back in the medieval days, the Middle Ages, torturing people, doing the horrible thing. World War II, torturing people. So that's the dark side of human experimentation. Could you possibly do crazy ass experiments on people you love or respect? Or do you have to develop an enemy to justify whatever you need to get done? And that is the dark side of human experimentation. Believe me, you do not want to be to be so awake as possible, because too much awakeness, you'll wither under all of that knowledge, and not enough awakeness, you'll be a victim to somebody else's needs and wants and desires. And so this is where I'm like, okay, wow, I've gotten through this pretty quick. All right. So when some people watched me and they were pissed off around my animal, they were watching themselves, pissed off at themselves for accepting what we were also blind to. When you finally see yourself on Facebook and you're mad at the world and you're angry at the world, you're only looking at your own reflection. It's hard for me to look at humanity right now, but it's easier to manage less than 1,000 people on my Facebook friends list, because it's hard to watch anything more than that. And even then I have to unfollow people because it's that fucking painful to watch people. Some of you don't have what it takes to handle the pain. So you understand at a superficial level. But when you understand at your own personal painful level, you know you can't do anything but watch everything explode in your face and then back away so you don't get hit by the shrapnel. That's why you'll lessen your social circle, because you'll watch people supernova around you. And how much can you handle all that pain and destruction and self-destruction? It's too much. Once you finally release your demons and you realize that's the reality and you're strong, you've built up yourself, you understand the expectation, what's going on, it won't phase you as much. You'll know you're pretty much have come to terms and resigned yourself to the fact that, yes, you will watch so many people around you die around you at their own hand, and you won't be as affected. Just like with my dog, when I finally resigned myself to the fact that, yeah, I can't do anything more for her, I had to sit and look out the window. And I knew that my husband had to come home, so we had to do this thing together, and she was sitting there just doing her thing, and I'm looking out the window going like, fuck, and I'm just crying going like, fuck, this fucking sucks. But that was me releasing the demons. But at some point, when you finally realize the world around you, and many people are going to self-destruct, but you've lessened those attachments to the people around you, it won't be as bad. And it won't be as bad because you release the demons. But if you have so many people around you that are suffering, you will have to be under the influence in order to get through it. You will have to be under the influence, because the reality, again, is too much to bear. And so, but when you understand you're at your own personal painful level, you can't do anything but watch everything explode in your face. And you just have to back away so you don't get hit by the shrapnel. Take on what you can only afford to lose in body, mind, and spirit. And that means that if you're taking on implants and transplants and surgeries, can you really afford not to have them? Because if you lose them, would you survive? That's the thing people don't realize. They gamble to lose. Everybody out there in the medical holistic system, and even in the conspiracy world and whatever, even those in the J world that are away from the medical holistic system, and they are still finding, they're still in the holistic system. They're gambling to lose because they're taking on things. They're taking on protocols. They're taking on stuff that they can't really afford to lose. And you can't do anything about it. You can't help them. Only a very small few people understand the J world. And I can count them on my hand. Now, question of whether they survive the energy conversion is the other question. They may understand, but now they have to actually biologically survive this. And so take on what you can only afford to lose in body, mind, and spirit, because even waking up is deadly. You will find a way to stay up 24/7 to save people. Remember, saving people is a money-making venture, and it's a type of self-destruction. It's not worth it. Save yourself. And so you don't want to know half the shit that goes on out there. And even what I read in the last 12 years, I really don't want to know half the shit that goes on out there. It's so traumatizing. You will lose your humanity once you learn what humans actually can do to each other when given the opportunity, and then they have the desire, and if they have that desire and we're programmed to. And so I'll tell you, when you get desensitized to how evil humans can be, and then you have to also be that way in order to measure up and feel like you're getting your retribution, you will lose your humanity. Let me tell you, I did for many years when I was responding to my trolls. I lost my humanity, and I shot back at every single one of them, as far as spiritually and intellectually, and even with the words. And sometimes you feel like you have to. Then finally, when you realize that you can't destroy someone because they're trying to destroy you, you have to cut off the communication. You can't go back and forth with people who are in self-destruct. You have to cut off the communication. And so you finally regain your humanity when you realize that you cannot convert somebody else. And it's a waste of time trying to explain yourself to somebody else. But you can explain yourself to the world. And people take what they want from it. But again, you'll gain your humanity back when you realize that it's about saving yourself. It's not about saving other people. And so I just got my humanity back, and I will never ever lose it again. The downside of the J world is when you truly understand the J world, it will be a pain like no other. And I'm not saying literal physical pain. It will be so hard for you to look at humanity because they are in a downward spiral. When you watch humans and animals go down, spiral down, there's no joy in waking up. But at some point as a human, you will want to give people the choice. Even when you know many people in the world will not be able to make the choice that you've made, you still want to give people the choice. And so again, I don't do any collaborations with anybody. I don't do podcasts together with anyone. I know people have offered that. I'm not doing that. Because you would literally have to give up your politics, your religion, and your science dogmas. You couldn't use the word God in my videos. You'd actually have to question every single thing out there in politics, all the spiritual dogmas, all the cultish type of stuff. You have to question Jesus, Satan. You had to question it all. You couldn't, yeah. And You think people are ready to do that? Nope. You have to experience the J world at the purest level. You literally have to walk away from society. Be on your own. Talk about the misery of releasing the demons. Look at humanity. And even admit to some of the mistakes that you've made about everything. You'd have to be transparent about your part in all of this. You couldn't hide behind anything. And I'm not about uncovering deep, dark secrets of like Podesta and, Clinton, okay? I've done the conspiracy world. I understand Podesta, WikiLeaks, and everything. I understand. I know about the Epstein, Jimmy Savile, and all the different crimes, okay? So that's not where I'm at. If some of you are still at that point where you're like, oh God, look at this, look at that, and all about the symbols and Illuminati, I'm way beyond that. I am so beyond that, it's crazy. And so some atrocities are in your face, and there are symbols that are in the religious houses. A person of the past was nailed to the cross. That's how desensitized we are as far as our humanity. We're so desensitized to humans and life that people literally look every day at a human that you call a god or a DOG. Sorry, I'm going to call it what it is. You call that person, that person is not human to you. You have actually taken away their humanity. That guy that's on the cross, that's in all these different churches on Good Friday, he was a human and he was tortured. And now he's a symbol of what? Saving people? That's when you know you're in a death culture. When you have desensitized yourself to such a point where you are actually looking at a person that is on that cross every single day, praying to that person. And then also on the other side of it, you're like, oh, it's not about religion or God and whatever and law and commandments. It's not about the house of churches and man-made religion. Then they're all like saying, oh yeah, Ishtar eggs and oh gosh, it's satanic to do this and do that. And I'm like, you know what? You're no different when you're pointing out what someone's religion and beliefs are and saying that your religion of Hebrew, Yah, whatever, is so much better than the man-made religion of bowing down to idols that have been tortured in the past. And then you're taking part in the medical system. You're taking part in the holistic system. You're all about taking away your pain. You're about exploiting your friends, your family, your animals, your children. How are you any fucking different? You're not. That's the deception of all the religions out there, because you claim that your religion is better than somebody else's. If you claim no religion, how can you say you're better than anyone else? When you claim yourself, wow, that's a freedom. But no, people have to be under religion. They have to be in an association. They have to be in a collective with people who think they're better than somebody else. Yeah, you're religious. No matter how much you spin it that you're not, you're religious. So it doesn't matter. You can't change the past as far as that person nailed to the cross. It's not up to you to develop justice against somebody else. And that's really what all these religions are. It's like, oh, justice against those who nailed Jesus to the cross. Look at you. You're nailing people to the cross all over the place. People who don't like your religion are nailing you to the cross. They're doing anything different than was done way back 6,000 years ago. Okay? When you look at Jesus as a human, that his humanity was taken away by so many followers and by the people that don't like the followers of the man-made religions, that you're still dehumanizing people. And then you're casting spells. And so you really don't want to know about what goes on in the dark web. It truly is saving yourself. Believe me, Netflix only scratches the surface on some of the atrocities humans have done to each other and their children. Netflix only scratches the surface what humans do to themselves and their children and animals. So if you had a hard time watching me trying to figure out how to save my animal, keep her alive, can you only imagine how bad it gets when someone doesn't want to keep their animal alive and they keep plying them with surgeries and pills and powders and supplements and keep them locked up all day long until they get home? Can you imagine the suffering of some of these animals that have to live by humans' lifestyles? I was home all day with my animal. She was never put in a cage. She was never locked up. But I didn't have a doggy door. That's where I know I came up short. So you saw me go in and out. My whole life was about putting her inside and outside, inside and outside. You don't want to know half the shit that goes on in this world. I know more than I really want to know, but I'm glad I know it. You will have to do your own research and figure out what you can handle. How much of the knowledge of the world can you handle? Some of you will not be able to wake up even a little bit, because it would mean you would have to look in the mirror and face everything you've ever done to yourself, your children, your animals, and society, your friends, and your family. Now, I can still appreciate you, even though you have your politics, your religion, and your science dogmas, because I can deal with diversity. It doesn't mean you understand me, and it doesn't mean I fully understand you, but it just means that I'm human, and I can handle differences no matter how large or small. And then I say, happy Good Friday. Ironic, today's Good Friday, and here it is, I'm covering all of this stuff. It's not a coincidence. The energy in the environment is either going to destroy you and take you down further and further, make you more intolerant and screaming on the way out the door like hell, or it's going to make you fucking smarter, more aware, and more determined to fucking live. And so you now have the choice, save the world by dying or save the world by living. It's all up to you. Bye.